Good evening. Let me stop my wobbly camera. There we are. You're sat on my very flimsy music stand at the moment that I use for my my violin and flute practice, so I can read my music. But good evening. It's me again, yet again. Good gracious, I was thinking the other day, how long have I been making these videos? How long has this channel been going? And very nearly 4 years, because I will have been a counsellor now, and this has shot past for 4 years this coming May. And I know I started the channel, I think, in the weeks leading up to the actual election in May, because the idea was initially was to follow, sort of going through it all and seeing what happened and all of that. So, yeah, that's a bit of a sobering thought for me. 4 years. What are 4 years? It feels like 4 years in some senses. The sort of official sort of events and things and meetings and all of that sort of stuff, and everything else has gone on in my sort of political life along the same time up until about a year ago, when a lot of that was just sort of stopped, really. It seems like more than 4 years, really. It seems like a bit of a lifetime. It does seem like a lifetime. I've done a lot. I've crammed a lot into the 4 years. The flip side of the coin, of course, the bit I love, which is why I wanted to do it in the first place, why I've loved doing it, why I love doing these videos whenever I can. Excuse me. I've got a coffee fit tonight for some reason. Has been the actual having the opportunity to help people who need help, and I can play if I can even play a small part, even if it's just moral support, hopefully more material support as well, but if I can and have been able to do that, that's the whole point, I've got a friend locally who's very well regarded, admired by many of us who know him, who I was talking to via email over Christmas, and he paid me a lovely compliment, really nice compliment actually, which basically was ultimately the best each of us can do is try and each day live what we believe, live our ideals. And he said that of all the people he knows, I'm one of I'm perhaps one that does that most, or one of the ones that does that the most. So that was a lovely thing to say, and I do. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I've decided to run as an independent in this coming May's Welsh Parliament elections for the Vale of Clwyd. If they go ahead in May, there's a chance they'll be postponed because of what's going on with restrictions and corona and everything. I don't expect to win, of course. I'm an independent. I'm up against, I've got no resources. I've just got the goodwill of friends and things, but there's all the restrictions on anyway. So there's severe restrictions in how you can campaign. I can't speak tonight. Campaign or not, so you can't campaign really in the ways you normally would, and a lot of it's going to be online and things like that. I don't have any money. I don't have any sort of financial resources or anything like that. I've just sort of got this, and I'm up against, the two big parties, Labour and Conservative, and of course it's been a 21-year Labour lockout here in the Vale of Clwyd for the whole time that the Assemblies existed. So, but despite all of that, I've decided to try and run. Again, I'm trying to, because I do believe in put up or shut up. So rather than me moan about what's not being done or not being talked about, almost more importantly than done, because things don't get done. I've experienced now as a community councillor, things don't tend to get done unless things are being spoken about first in the sort of halls of power, either locally or nationally. And my personal feeling is that certain things have just not been brought out into the daylight, either at all or often enough by those with the privilege of power at a national level and local level. I do these in large part, so for my small way, can do that. If the restrictions weren't on, I'd be out in a town centre or on a street corner, talking to people face to face about all the things I think need to be talked about that aren't. So anyway, if you've watched these for even a little bit of the time I've been doing them, you'll know that really. You'll know that much about me and the purpose. So this year, this coming May, Welsh Assembly elections, very important because it's the first time 16-year-olds in Wales get to vote, get to have their say, which I think is fantastic, really fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to, if I can, talking to anyone out there who's going to be 16 or turn 16 before May's elections, and wants to exercise their right to vote for the first time in their lives. I'd love questions. I'd love to listen to what you or they would have to say. Looking for from the representative from the Vale of Clwyd, anyone standing. So that's great. So very important there. Obviously important to remember to register to vote if you're going to be voting for the first time, or if you think you've not voted for a while, and you might not be on the electoral list. Basically register. So that's all very important. So I'll have more videos closer to the time about reminding people to register, where to go, what to do. So that's all coming up. Usually every 4 years there are also local elections where I would have to be running, and other councillors, community and county, would have to be running this May. But because it's coinciding with the we can't call them Assembly elections anymore. It's going to be rebranded Welsh Parliament elections. We get to stay councillors for an extra year. So the council elections, the local elections, will be held next May 2022. So if and when I'm not successful in the Welsh Assembly elections, Welsh Parliament, I've done it myself, Welsh Parliament elections, I'll very likely be standing again in the 2022 elections. And by that point, I think with the break I'm having at the minute from my doctoral research and PhD and everything, let's see, around about May 2022, I'll be a few months off of finishing. So I'll be, hopefully, if everything's gone to plan and smoothly, I finish, manage to complete, without sort of falling off the twig or going loopy, frankly. from the stress and the pressure and the work, I will be about to be Dr. James Ball. So I'll either be a doctor around that time of social sciences, or or I'll be, if I'm re-elected, Doctor Counsellor. I keep people have this joke with me. They say, "Well, what are you going to do if you're both? Are we supposed to call you Counsellor Doctor James or Doctor Counsellor James?" It's quite funny. Obviously, you just call me James. But it will be another certificate to add to my academic ones that I have sitting down there that I don't know what to do with. I haven't got the wall space for them, so I don't know where to put the things. Must be it's nice to have. I don't know. I do take them out now and again, have a peek, and sort of remind myself that what I've done, because I can't really believe it myself, to be honest. I know I talked about in the last video about how things change when you're stuck in the middle of the sort of stuff that's going on now, and it feels like it's never going to change, it's never going to get better. But then when you're not really paying attention, it sort of something happens which sets events in motion, and things do change. Nothing stays the same, whether it's bad or good. Nothing stays the same. It's swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Life's a roller coaster, as someone I think once sang. So yes, that's what's going on and coming up at the moment. Obviously, I've not got a massive amount to sort of tell you about what's been going on here, because this is well into 9 months now of self-isolating here in the house with my family. Obviously, we're waiting to see. I'm watching the news and seeing what's happening. I'm sure, like you are, about the vaccine rollout here up in North Wales. I saw quite a disconcerting story. I think it was on the what was it? On one of the websites of one of the Welsh newspapers, I think, local newspapers, and it was basically something about North Wales having the second lowest number of vaccinations to date, from sort of mid-south, west, and all that sort of stuff. Wales. I wasn't entirely surprised, unfortunately. North Wales, again, one of the other reasons why I'm running and decided to run for Welsh Parliament is because I do not think Welsh Labour have done a great job here throughout, certainly trying to give the perception that they've done better than the government down in England, which, I mean, not a difficult thing to do, is it really? To do better than what Johnston and Hancock have been doing. But if it is better, it's imperceptibly better. There were still the cock-ups here, massive delays as far as getting PPE, as far as testing, as far as test and trace, the track and trace, app, that had to be handed to private companies again, by the Welsh Government to do, sort out. And then now, much like in England, with the rollout of the vaccines and everything, I mean, I read Vaughan Gething talking about the health minister. This is Welsh Labour health minister, talking about in this article about why has North Wales got the second worst, I think it was, numbers of vaccine rollout compared to the south mostly. Vaughan Gething was sort of defence. Well, part of his defence was it wasn't really defence. It was the usual stuff. He was just talking about a wonderful job actually he thinks he's done and the Welsh Government have done, which of course they haven't. Don't answer that your question, really head on. Just give the sort of the PR nonsense, spin basically. My God, the Welsh Labour love spin. So yeah, and he was basically saying, "Oh well, my department spent the last month planning to roll out a vaccine." The last month. This article was from, I believe, it was around New Year's Day. So it was either just before New Year's Day or just after they came out. So he's saying they've spent December, more or less, putting out the advertisement for the jobs, the extra staff needed for the vaccination centres and things, the mobile ones, the ones to bump up the vaccination programmes within doctors' surgeries and your local hospitals and things. He's been doing that. He's been occupied with that for the past month, the previous month, so December, basically. Anyone point out to me the problem with that? We've known, I'm not the Health Minister for Wales. I'm not Vaughan Gethin. I don't have all the information being fed to me every single day. I'm not paid a small bloody fortune to do the job, to make sure people are, staying healthy in Wales, getting the health outcomes, the procedures at hospital that they need and should have under the Welsh NHS. Yet even I know, from a very partial reading of what's going on in the news and newspapers like you read and see, or the odd occasion actually get to see the Welsh news on the telly, because it doesn't come up much, does it? Unfortunately, for some reason. Even I know it's been a complete bloody shambles, and even I know that we've been waiting and expecting some kind of vaccine for the majority of this emergency since March, and then the summer onwards. We know they've been working on a vaccine all over the world, in Britain, in Oxford, Germany, everywhere. There've been all these companies, the big pharma companies, research companies, scrabbling to get a workable, usable vaccine out as soon as possible. We've known this for months. Yet Vaughan Gethin apparently has only been springing into action and getting his underlings and his department to spring into action within the past month, which is exactly the same as what's been happening in England with their NHS under Hancock. So please, no one give me this nonsense, absolute spin, Labour spin nonsense that Welsh Labour have been doing, a bang-up job in comparison with Johnson and his lot down in England, because they haven't, and they're not. I saw only a few days ago that the venue Cymru, where there's one of these mass vaccination centres, have been set up, that I think it was over the weekend, that there were people that were invited to come along to get the vaccine, ended up waiting 3 hours, and it was a shambles, and the people from the NHS running had to apologise to the people that were attending. So the question has to be, why so late, Welsh Labour and Vaughan Gethin? Why so rushed? When, as I say, we all knew, I'm assuming including you, the one person who's supposed to know and supposed to be planning for it and doing something about it and implementing it, that this was coming and being worked on months and months ago. So I think this speaks to the competence. I think this speaks to the levels of faith that I, perhaps you watching this, people throughout the country have in our current Welsh government, Welsh Labour government, and Mr. Gethin. I mean, I've said it in videos before. Here, where I am in Rill, obviously it's Betsy Cadwallader Health Board. My local hospital is Glenclwyd. I can't remember how many years Glenclwyd has been in special measures. And I believe it's still in special measures. I could remember. I believe it's still. I haven't checked recently in special measures. Sorry, that noise is my chair, not me. the back's gone. All while, Welsh Labour have been in government. What's changed? I mean, when I was, and again, you'll know if you saw my videos at the time. Around about this time last year, in fact, it was December last year, when I was waiting to have my what do they call it, cardioversion, to have my heart reset. Basically, I'd waited the best part of a year to go in to have that done. It was supposed to be in end of November, I think. I went in. I turned up in the morning, was wiggled up, and then waited and was turned away because I was told that, and me and everybody else that had turned up actually, were told that there was nighttime overspill, so the beds had been taken, couldn't be done. Come back the same time next week, so did the same thing, got ready for it. And there's all the sort of stress and worry because you're about to have your heart. It's not a small thing. I'm going to be knocked out and have my heart sort of reset with another, with the old, things can go wrong as it can with any sort of medical. It's a stressful, worrying sort of time. So then when you get sort of, anti-climaxes and then turned away, well, that's bad enough. Came back the next week, exactly the same thing, turned away again. And I'm thinking, this place is in special measures. I can't see what's being improved apart from some building work. What are the Welsh Government doing to improve this place, to improve outcomes? The outcomes here for me and these patients, as far as just trying to get the procedures we're waiting for, are worse. And this is pre-corona. It was just as frustrating. In fact, I could tell even more frustrating for the actual staff, and my nurse and the nurses and things and all of that, who of course did not want to be turning us away. I felt terrible for them because they were so apologetic. They were even asking us to phone in and complain, because if they complain, no attention's paid to them. And when I did complain, and I said specifically in my complaint, I do not want you to get one of the nurses, one of the staff that are actually there, to phone me up to apologise. I want to hear from one of the managers, bed managers. I want to hear their explanation and their apology. Of course, when I was phoned back, they made one of the nurses apologise to me. I think that I'd already met before, which was just, such a cowardly, horrible thing to do, move. So this is the state of affairs there, and this was before Corona kicked in, the pandemic, and we know what's going on now in our hospitals. So, okay. Rant over. Those are my views and feelings on the Welsh Government, Welsh Labour, and their response to this crisis. So the upshot is, I don't know, you don't know, we still don't know when we're actually going to get. I mean, I must say, I want to move on from this, but I must say, we've been self-isolating in 9 months. Not one of us, and I'd love you to tell me if this happened to you, if you've been doing the same thing, not one of us has at any time from the beginning of this, in March last year, until now, received any official, to my knowledge, any official notification or letters or information about staying in to stay safe. We should self. We've made the decision. We've made the decision ourselves back in March, knowing what our own medical history is, and age, and all that sort of stuff for other family members, and underlying health conditions. We didn't get anything from the government. We didn't get anything from our doctors or hospital to advise us. Nothing. We've had nothing the whole way through, and I suspect when and if the vaccines are actually being rolled out in more numbers, I just really, I don't know if you feel the same. Excuse me. I have no faith that we're going to be contacted then either. I really do feel like I've been completely and utterly forgotten about. I don't think we were even on the radar. And I know that for a fact, a lot of people up here in North Wales, and here where we are, feel exactly the same. We're a complete afterthought. And I think there's, to be honest, in my opinion, I think there's, justifications for feeling that way. To be honest, there really are. Let's put it this way: if I'm going to put my cynical political hat on, North Wales ain't a Labour stronghold. Here is not a Labour stronghold anymore. If you look at the map since the last general election, it is mostly blue. I think Allen and Deeside is the only little sliver of red left. If you look down at the map of Wales and which constituencies are red and blue or not, you'll see quite clearly that the heartlands around Cardiff and Swansea are the only major lumps of red left. So if I was going to be cynical politically, which I suppose is part of my job, because of course these are considerations to be made, I just don't think we figure into the thinking, for politicians down in Welsh Labour and the Welsh Government down in Cardiff, because of course they're thinking about their own constituencies down south. Many of them are thinking about their own, popularity. They're thinking about election time this coming May. Of course they are. That's what politicians do. They spend a lot of their time thinking about how are they going to get re-elected next time. So, unfortunately, there we are. That's the reality. Those are the realities of politics. Politicians, on the whole, particularly at national level, are not your friends. Unfortunately, too many there are out of pure self-interest. I've said it before, narcissistic reasons, really believe that they're the best you can get. You're lucky to have them. Again, that's what I'm sort of personally involved in this against, but then, I'll be quite honest with you. Finding out that's really what it's like has made me doubt whether I want to continue after the next round, or when the next round are coming up of local elections. If I want to continue as a councillor, because it's almost a dirty word. It's almost, for a lot of people, it's like having a bit of a swear word in front of your name, or something, not good in front of your name, because it's such a sort of derogatory thing to have, like, MP or assembly member, because, the view of politicians, probably rightly so, is so low, so bad. But then again, I'll sit there and I'll think, well, it gives me the position, it gives me the chance lent to me by my residents that have put me here. It gives me the chance to use the position I've got publicly to do this, to try and get things talked about that aren't talked about, enough or at all. So no matter if you're an independent like me, no matter what level of politics you're at or representation you're at, no matter what sort of shenanigans are going on as far as you're not being allowed on committees, you don't get to vote on this or that or the more important things because of the sort of game playing that goes on, unfortunately, and the pettiness that goes on within the sort of official side of it all. As a councillor, community or county level, as an MP, as an AM, as an MS, you always have one thing, one crucial thing, one crucial power that a lot of people don't get at your disposal, and it's this. And you just need to open this. And the problem is too few do open this and say what should be said and talk about what should be talked about. So if I'm going to do anything while I've got the chance, while I've got any sort of public platform, sorry, sound obviously, that's from the off what I've tried to do. I'm trying to do now, will continue trying to do, even when I'm not a councillor or a politician, whatever, involved in politics. I'll continue to talk about it, to write about it, to make videos about it. So that's the whole point, really. So yeah, I didn't really have a specific thing to talk about. I think I was just talking about that, really, and I hope I haven't bored you. That's 30 minutes already. Actually, I always carry. Oh, where is it? It's in my pocket. A few years ago, I bought this. You might not be able to see that very well. It's a little. Hang on. It's a little. You might not. Hang on. Can I? Oh, it's upside down. I'm doing well here, aren't I? There you go. Can you see a little head on the coin? There we are. That is the Emperor Nero himself. And this coin is called an AS. It's got an ass. Literally, it's called an ass. And it's basically the sort of Roman equivalent of, I don't know, pound coin, maybe a bit more. The sort of basis of their currency at the time was made very nearly 2,000 years ago in Rome. There we are, for people to buy food and all the things we buy to sort of stay alive. There we are. And I bought it a few years ago, I think for my birthday, about £10, £15. I got it from one of these sort of sites that sort of deal to these sort of things to make sure it's a real deal. Because I love history and all that sort of stuff, but mostly because, and this is before Corona, to remind myself when I look at it that for 2,000 years I've got something there that was made by a human being 2,000 years ago, used by human beings 2,000 years ago, very nearly, who did all the things we're doing, who've been through all the same stuff we're going through and worse, yet they survived, they thrived, in some ways, and of course the proof in the pudding there is if they hadn't, you wouldn't be here to watch this, I wouldn't be here to to be saying this. No matter how bad it gets, things change, we make it through it, and here we still are. going through many of the same trials and tribulations that the people that made this, spent it and had it in their hands 2,000 years ago did. So yeah, anyway, on that note, I'll say take care, stay safe, and I'll see you next week or the week after.